Well guys, we got another live action adaptation coming out right around the corner. I am seeing it this Friday, so of course, you know the drill. Since there is a remake coming out, it's time to talk about the original predecessor. This time, it's for one of my favorite DreamWorks movies of all time, and that film is How to Train Your Dragon. This movie came out in 2010. This movie is directed by Kristen and DeBlois. Hopefully I say his name right. Once again, the same directors that did Lilo and Stitch. So basically, this is a year for these two directors getting a remake. And this movie stars Baruchel, Gerard, Butler, Ferrera, Jonah, Kristen, Wiig, TJ Miller, Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Now, if you don't know the story of How to Train Your Dragon, seriously, but I'll be nice enough to tell you, this movie took place in an island of Berk, where Vikings and dragons are basically sworn enemies. All Vikings wants to do is to protect the village from the dragons. And when a villager named Hiccup hits the rarest dragon out of them all, known as the Night Fury, he stumbles upon the Night Fury and suddenly befriends this dragon, and learning about that dragons are much different than the Vikings anticipated. Now, when it comes to How to Train Your Dragon, I remember seeing this movie in theaters in 3D. This is one of those movies that I would absolutely remember for theater experiences. And easily, How to Train Your Dragon is probably in my top 3 favorite DreamWorks films, including Kung Fu Panda and Shrek, because How to Train Your Dragon is definitely an animated masterpiece. Everything about this movie is very immersive. I love the world building of How to Train Your Dragon. I love the world of Berk. I love the world of Vikings and dragons and all that stuff, and the immersive world of Berk looks fantastic. And I just gotta say, the animation in this movie is the best that I would say DreamWorks has ever done. The animation literally helps you feel so immersed in this world of Berk, and I really do love the look of this movie. This is some of the most beautiful animation that I've ever seen in a movie, and it looks even better on 4K. I rebought this movie on 4K, watched it on 4K before this review. It still felt very immersive. And that is thanks to great animation in this movie. The animation is fantastic. But of course, the characters in this movie are fantastic in this movie. Of course, Hiccup, played by Baruchel, is the most likable character in this entire movie. He's a character that you definitely root for to convince the Vikings wrong of how dragons actually are. And Baruchel, of course, his perfect voice casting for Hiccup. Dad, I don't want to kill dragons. Oh, Toothless. Come on, Toothless. Come on, buddy. That's my terrible Hiccup impression. I apologize. But Hiccup is such a likable character in this film. And definitely what makes this film very, very strong is the chemistry between Hiccup and Toothless. Toothless is to me one of the most adorable characters that I have seen with Stitch, which is funny because this is by the same creators of Lilo and Stitch. And they do have their similarities what they look like, but I gotta say Toothless is such an adorable and badass dragon in this film. But the chemistry between Hiccup and Toothless is what makes this movie very, very strong. Their chemistry is so well done in this film. You know, when they first meet each other, of course, they're starting to connect with one another. And I love that the movie takes its time to get them basically connected with one another. And seeing Hiccup basically learn what dragons are all about just from Toothless's perspective alone. It's definitely the biggest strong point of the film, but the other characters as well in How to Train Your Dragon is fantastic. We have Gerard Butler as Stoic the Vest, which I'm so happy he is returning in the live action film, because I can't see anyone else playing this character. He plays this really overprotective fighter that sticks with his tradition of killing dragons, and I thought the chemistry between him and Hiccup is very strong in this film as well. Because they basically don't understand each other, and this movie is all about them trying to reconnect with one another and trying to understand each other. And Gerard Butler is just badass in the film as Stoic the Vest. Also, Ferrera as Astra, the love interest to Hiccup in the film, which I love that she's not just a love interest to Hiccup. Them both don't see eye to eye in this film at first because she is a badass. She wants to complete dragon training. She wants to be the one that actually kills a dragon. And you see her kind of learn the perspective of dragons as well, and her chemistry with Hiccup is also really good in the film. The rest of the characters in dragon training are fantastic in the film. We have Snot Lad, played by Jonah, who's kind of like the bad boy. He thinks he's awesome at everything, which he's obviously not. We got Fish Legs, played by McLovin in Superbad. He's kind of like the character that's like the know-it-all nerd out of the group. We also have Tough Nut and Rough Nut, played by TJ Miller and Kristen Wiig. They're twins that are always bantering with one another. They're just fun side characters as well in this film. Also, Craig Ferguson playing Cobber in the film. He's also a really fun character in this film. Welcome to Dragon Training! Each of the characters in How to Train a Dragon is fantastic, but of course, we all root for the chemistry between Hiccup and Toothless. That's the biggest strong point of this film. but the immersive of this film is fantastic. The dragon flying scenes, wow, still holds up from 2010. It is so fucking immersive. I remember in 3D, it looks phenomenal. Everyone could all agree it's one of the best 3D anime films of all time. Literally, the test drive scene is one of my favorite scenes in this entire freaking film because of how immersive that scene is. You literally felt like you're riding on Toothless. But all the flying scenes, the action scenes are fantastic. The finale of this film is so freaking intense when we find out that the dragons are basically sort of nesting this big ass dragon. And of course, Hiccup and Toothless defeats that dragon at the end. It's a very exciting finale. That's this movie. It's exciting with really great pacing within it. But it's also just a heartfelt story about people judging things that are not what they are. And I love that lesson that this film presented. Also, I want to talk about the score in this movie that is composed by John Powell. Holy shit, this is some of my favorite scores that I've ever seen in the anime film. The test drive score, it's one of my favorite scores of all time. I love that score so much. It always keeps me in my edge of my seat till this day, and I'm so glad they're keeping that score back in the live action film, and I cannot wait to hear that score again on the big screen. You know, this Viking epic score that John Powell does is phenomenal in the film. In the montage where Hiccup is fixing the tail for Toothless, that score is just so epic. The finale score is great, but of course, the test drive score is one of the most iconic film scores that I have seen of all time in an animated film. But this movie is one of those films that I feel like it's something that we've seen many times before, but at the same time, it made it very refreshing as well. They did the same thing with Lilo and Stitch, which Chris Sanders had directed, that we all thought it's going to be like the next E.T., but they made it kind of refreshing. They did the same thing here. You know, it has things that we've seen many times before, you know, a kid encountering something, befriending something that he shouldn't. Of course, people don't believe in him. We've seen that plot many times before, but somehow this movie just made it so fresh and new. And that's what I mostly love about How to Train Your Dragon. This is a very refreshing take on a story that we know and love. So easily, guys, overall, How to Train Your Dragon is definitely in my favorite DreamWorks movies of all time. The animation is immersive. The world of Berk is fantastic. The chemistry between Hiccup and Toothless is so well done in the film, and I cannot wait to see that once again in the live action film. The rest of the characters are great. The action scenes are great. The flight scenes are fantastic. The messages of this film is so strong in this film. This film is hilarious. It has some heartfelt scenes, and this film is just overall exciting, and I'm praying that the live action film has that same charm, has that same magic that this film presented. Absolutely one of my favorite DreamWorks films of all time. I love this film so much. I always rewatch this film, and How to Train Your Dragon is definitely the most memorable DreamWorks film and probably the biggest DreamWorks film of all freaking time. So guys, that is my review for the original How to Train Your Dragon. What do you guys think of this film? Do you love this film, hate this film, or you thought it's okay? And who's excited for the live action film? Let me know down in the comments below. And you're probably wondering, am I going to review How to Train Your Dragon 2? Well, I found out that the live action film is getting a sequel, so when the sequel comes out, I'll review How to Train Your Dragon 2, and I've already reviewed The Hidden World earlier on my channel. You can check that review out. So make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contact with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, notify for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.